We are in Parashat Bereshit, Baruch Hashem, finally starting the Torah from scratch. And we're going to learn from the holy words of the Ben Ish Chai. And he quotes the verse in the Torah, Vayar Elokim et haor ki tov, vayavdel Elokim ben haor uben hachoshech. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God separated between the light and between the darkness. Okay? Now he says as follows. Ra'au ki tov, Kadosh Baruch Hu saw that the light is good, ve'en ha'elo ve'lachoshech she'u mishtamshim be'erubuviyah. Since the light is good, it's not appropriate that the light and the darkness should serve while they're mixed together. No, it's not appropriate. So what did Hashem did? Kava lo tchumo ve'lo tchumo. Hashem says, okay, I'll give 12 hours a day for the light, 12 hours a day for the darkness. You have your time, you have your time. That way you don't get mixed together. Okay. Now he says, okay, let's look a little bit deeper into here. Me'achar va'or hu tov u'mshubach va'or choshech meguneh. If the light is refined and good, and good quality, meshubach is like very good quality, and the darkness is the complete opposite, now what should he be doing with the choshech? If the darkness is bad, technically the Kadosh Baruch Hu should have thrown the choshech, and he says here, letehoma rabba, to the great deep. I think that's how you translate it, to the depth of the ocean when there's no light there. It's called tehoma rabba, right?
Abyss.
The abyss. If the darkness is so bad, Kadosh Baruch Hu should have got rid of the darkness, throw it to the depth of the oceans, ve'yash'ir ha'or levado, and would leave the light by himself. Where? Look at this. Look how our Chachamim knew about everything, but we're very careful how they choose the words. Ve'hash'ir ha'or levado meshamesh betevel. What's tevel? This is the level of the planet where we are on. I told you there are 7 levels. We're going to learn about that in the Zohar, if not this week, the next week. The surface of the ball, what we are on, is called Tevel. Then there's a surface under the ground. This place is called Arka. Then there's another level under that called Tziyah. Then there's a level under that. This is in the ground. I'm talking about, I told you already, the civilizations under the ground. Under that, there's another level called Neshiyah, another level under that called Guy or Gay, another level under that is called Adama, and the lowest of all is called Eretz. So, there are 7 levels in the ball, in the planet, and like I told you already, we're going to learn about that. There are civilizations in each and every one of them. You know, the Rokeach says that under the ground there are 360 types of civilizations, of creatures. So, excuse me? 360. But nevertheless, we'll learn about that. I don't want to sidetrack about that. We're going to learn that, like I told you, we're going to learn about the civilizations under the ground. That Adam HaRishon was kicked to the lowest place that is called Eretz, and there he was mating with the demons, with the animals. Also, Cain was there. But that's to another class. But what does the Ben Ish Chai says? The darkness should have been kicked to the abyss, to the tehoma rabba, and the light should be stayed here in the level that is called tevel. Now he says, Uma hana'a b'choshech. Now why do we need any type of pleasure from the darkness? Why you leave the darkness? Right? How does the Torah start? Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz vechoshech al pnei tehom. The whole thing was darkness. And then Hashem revealed the light. Vayar Hashem ki tov. Hashem saw the light is good, so he separated between the light and the darkness. But if the darkness is so bad, get rid of it. Throw it to the depth. Who needs it? Why do I need to benefit from the darkness? That's his question. And to a point that we have to I don't have to say benefit, but we have to experience the darkness 12 hours. Hashem should have said, you know what, I'll give 20 hours to the light, 4 hours to the darkness. Why 12 hours light, 12 hours darkness? So he gives now an interesting story about a certain genius that he doesn't mention his name, but he's the author of a book called Hapla'ah. Okay? And he says at one time there was a minyan in his house. And there was exactly 10 men in the minyan. And there was one guy that he wasn't 100% kosher. So the Gaon told him, I'm not so happy with you in our minyan. So instead of throwing you out of the minyan, he says, go and call another guy. Okay. So they came and asked him, if you don't like this guy, why you didn't tell him to leave and then call another guy that you will be 10? You told him to stay, but you ordered us to get an 11th guy. You understand the question he was presented with? If you're not happy with this guy, if you think he's not kosher, then let him go. Tell him go, then order us to bring us a 10th guy. You know what it is to pray with a great tzaddik? Some people think it's what's the big deal? Let's you go pray now with Rav Abuchatzera, in his minyan, or in many other tzaddikim. It's a lot of people, they want to go and pray with Rav Kanievsky. It's not open to the public. Rav Dov Cook from Tveria. Let's see you go and pray in his minyan. So the tzaddik, he knows who he chooses to sit in the minyan. This specific case, the guy was not happy. He was not happy with one of the guys. He didn't say to kick him out. He said, bring another guy. So they asked him, why are you saying that? What did he answer? הלא גם החלבונה שריחה הרע הייתה בין סממני הקטורת. The 7 species, or the spices of the ktoret, 10 of them, they smell very good. But one of them, the chelbona, in English it's called strokes, I think. I think that's how you say it, chelbona. It doesn't smell good. It actually has a bad smell. So why are you putting a bad smell between all the 10 other spices that smell good? So what does he say? Omnam ken hu. Yeah, you're right. The chelbona doesn't smell good. But when he was asked about this guy, why didn't he kick him out of the minyan? He says, Ulam re'eh ki 11 simanim hayu ba. The chelbona also had 11 spices. One of them didn't smell good. So technically, why bringing an 11th spice? Get rid of the spice, this chelbona, and let's have 10 spices that they all smell good. What's the idea behind of having 10 that are smelling good and one that doesn't smell good? And he says, here is a powerful answer that the tzaddik answered. Why are you asking me, questioning me about the chelbona, about the spice that doesn't smell good? The tzaddik says, I want to do exactly like what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah says you have to have in the Ktoret, in the incense, 11 spices. 10 smell good, one of them smells awful. So the tzaddik says, I want to do the exact same thing. I want to have a minyan of 11 people. 10 people are kosher, one of them is not 100% kosher. Maybe he's a thief, maybe he speaks Lashon Hara, maybe he has marital relations with a woman who has nidah. I don't know what's the thing. You think that everybody you pray with is so kosher? I know a lot of people that they will not pray in certain minyanim. And they will say, this minyan is not a kosher minyan. This person is mechalel Shabbat, he desecrates Shabbat. Excuse me? This person does this person does that. Listen, we're not always praying in such kosher minyanim. I've been once to a certain place that a certain individual was asked to pray as the chazan. He's like, and everybody's like, no, he's like, later on when I asked him, what's the problem? He's like, if I would be chazan here, my chazarat hashatz, my repetition will be bachot levatala. I don't want to. I will pray, and there's be a safek here if there's a minyan. But for me to be the chazan, and he told me that in many minyanim, if it's not a large minyan, there's a very big chance that the brachot, the blessings of the chazarat hashatz, are brachot levatala. Because people don't listen, one person sleeps, another person's on the phone. You have to listen, everybody has to listen to every word, understand the words and answer Baruch Hu, Baruch Shmo, and Amen. One guy walks out suddenly, one guy sleeps. Anyways, so he, just to make a long story short, he says, the tzaddik says, I wanted the minyan like the Simemanei Aktoret. 10 smell good, one of them doesn't smell good. Okay. למה? למה ביקש באמת הכתוב 11? Forget about the tzaddik right now. Why did the text demand 11 and not 10? דממה נפשך. אם החלבונה, אף על פי שריחה רע, כדאי היא להצטרף עם הסממנים? It doesn't make sense. You bring in the chelbona. I'm almost certain the translation is strokes. You can look it up after the class. But I think chelbona is called strokes. But nevertheless, maybe I'm just saying it wrong. I think it's written S-T-O-R-A-X. Strokes, right? Strokes. Nevertheless, the question is, the spice doesn't smell good. Why you bring it? Why does the text say bring 11 spice that doesn't smell good? In most cases, in Judaism, we go around certain numbers, and one of them is 10. So we have 10 sfirot, 10 commandments, 10. How many we have in 10? It's only 11. It's not such a common number. What does it say here? Yaspik minyan asaraima. We're enough with 10, with a minyan. Here he says something interesting. If the chelbona is not worthy, why do you add it to the minyan of 11 spices? But he says as follows. לעולם החלבונה אינה כדאי להצטרף. Really? The chelbona is not worthy to be part of the spices. It stinks. It doesn't smell good. The whole point of the Ktoret, reach ishe, reach nichoach l'Hashem, it's a good smell to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And you're adding something that stinks. But he says, אלא מביאים אותה עם הסממנים כדי להיות שבח לסממנים על ידה ומכוחה. How do you recognize something good when something disgusting stands next to it? How would we recognize the greatness of the smell of the spices unless there's one spice that stands next to it? Ugh, that one stinks. So really, the spices that are good are being now empowered by the fact that something negative is standing next to them. All the rest of the spices, the smells are good. אבל ידוע דאין האור ניכר אלא מתוך החושך. When is the light noticed? That it comes out of darkness. If we wouldn't have any darkness, how would you know that the light is good? How would you have how to compare it? The Kadosh Baruch Hu had to leave something negative that you will say, oh, if this is negative, then this has to be good. And if there wouldn't be the negative, how would we know that the positive is good? ודאי תעלה תפילתם למעלה מאחר שהם מניין 10 וכולם צדיקים. So when it comes to the minyan, of course the prayer would be accepted because you have 10 that are tzadikim. אמנם עם כל זה, אם יהיה עמהם עוד אחד שהוא רשע, יתר על מניינם, if there will be an 11th guy, that he's a rasha, a wicked person, and he's above the minyan, שהם אין צריכים לו, they don't really need him. כיוון שהם 10, because they're 10. עם כל זאת, תתעלה תפילתם שלהם עילוי גדול. But nevertheless, their תפילה will be greater. Why? מחמת שמתערבת שם התפילה של אותו רשע. Because it will be 10 righteous people praying and 1 wicked. So now their tefillah is much more powerful. Because it's obvious now, this is the good prayer, this is the bad prayer. So the tzaddik was like, no, leave that wicked person, bring another righteous one. That way our prayer is much more powerful. נמצא אלו לא יצטרכו לתפילה של אותו רשע. They don't need him to continue to add for the minyan. אלא יהיה להם לתועלת בתפילת אותו רשע. Because now, when you're putting 10 beautiful things and there's nothing bad in between, how do you know it's beautiful? Put one horrible thing in between, you're saying, oh, that's bad, these are all good. So the tzaddik was like, bring a rasha to the minyan. שבזה יגיע שבח לתפילות שלהם, מחמת חושך אותו רע. Now their prayer is much more powerful because of the darkness of the prayer of that wicked individual. וכן היה ב-11 סימני הקטורת. That's why he learned that from the incense of the קטורת, the spices of the קטורת. שיש 10 שיש להם ריח טוב, 10 of them have a good smell, ורק אם תתערב עם החלבונה, only when you mix the 11th one, the חלבונה, שריחה רע, יתעלה איכות ריח טוב של שאר הסממנים. Then the good smell of the others will be exalted and elevated, because we will notice these are good, this is bad. Saying in other words, that when do you notice the good? When the bad stands next to it and you can say, now I can compare. You understand? Same here. ראה השם יתברך האור כי טוב. Hashem says, ooh, I love the light is great. And if he would completely לגרש את החושך, completely push the darkness to the abyss, to תהום הרבה, עד שיושבי תבל אין רואים חושך כלל. Technically, that's probably what's going to happen when Mashiach is going to come. Now, I don't know if there's any source saying that when Mashiach is going to come, we're not going to have a night. But technically, according to what we read, we're not going to have darkness when Mashiach comes. It's going to be light the whole time. Right? That's what I understand. But he says, if the Kadosh Baruch Hu would kick away the darkness, which means the Yoshvei Tevel, the ones who dwelling on the surface of the planet, right? אין רואים חושך כלל. They won't see the darkness at all. אז היה אצלם ראיית האור טבעי. So seeing the light would be a natural thing, ואינם מרגישים בשכבו ויקרו. So they would not see the greatness of it. They would not realize how great the darkness is, because you wouldn't have what to compare it to. מה שאין כן עתה שיש חושך, but now that there's darkness, שנמשך שימושו כמו שעות האור. Now what do you do in darkness? Now we have lights. 500 years ago, at night, everybody was asleep. What are you going to do? You can't do anything. So really, you can't do nothing at night. So you value the day more. And הרבה, ויהיה יושב ומצפה לאור. If there wouldn't be any light, then you would sit and just be waiting for the light to happen, to come. בזה נעשה שבח גדול ויתרון גדול לאור. By that, the light becomes greater, because you can compare it to the time of darkness. This can be also explained that when do you appreciate when you have something after you lack of not having it for so long? Why does Hashem take your money away? Why does Hashem make you single for so many years? Why does Hashem make a person barren? So when you get it, you appreciate it. Baruch Hashem, Hashem already saved that for me. In the last year, I didn't travel. Up until a year ago, every 2-3 months, I would go on a trip, on a tour around the world. For 5 years, barely see my family. But you know why I love the trips? Suddenly when I would go up on the trip, suddenly I would miss my wife, send her like hearts in WhatsApp, and like a present, and you press on it, poof, hearts come out of it. My wife would be like, "Ooh, I like it when you go on trips. You tell me you love me. You tell me you miss me, you buy me present." Suddenly I would miss all my kids. The kids will send me pictures. I would be like, So I used to love these trips, because I was appreciate what I have. When the abundance is around you, I didn't like these trips. I would sleep every night somewhere else, even though in most cases I would get hosted in nice houses. In those cases, I would always get hosted in the palaces. It would be an experience. Once I was hosted in a house, he was like the richest guy in the community. I had my private quarters with a private mikveh. I did 4 amot from the bed straight into the mikveh. Never in my life that I walked 4 steps. I didn't have to wash my hands. Dived into the mikveh. So, and I always was spoiled in beautiful homes, fancy restaurants, and all that nice stuff. This is nonsense. I love the trips because it made me appreciate my bed, my own home, not living out of a suitcase, missing my wife, missing my kids. So the Kadosh Baruch Hu sometimes takes something away so you can appreciate what you have. Same thing here. The Kadosh Baruch Hu says, if you always had light, if you would only experience light, and yesterday we explained light is chesed, kindness, and then when would you value it? When would you appreciate it? When would you see how great it is? So the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, so I will leave the darkness. That way, you have how to compare it. Therefore, our sages have explained in the Midrash, Vayikra Elokim Laor Yom. Kadosh Baruch Hu called the light day. Elu Maasim Shel Tzadikim. These are compared to the actions of the righteous people. Velachoshech Kara Laila. And to the darkness, he called night. Elu Maasim Shel Rashaim. These are the actions of the wicked people. To tell you, Sheyesh Shevach U'Ma'ala Gdola LeMaasim Shel Tzadikim. That there's a great virtue and a great advantage to the actions of the righteous people from the power of the actions of the wicked people. Imagine now you would see, there wouldn't be any wicked people. How would you value the actions of the tzaddikim? Everybody does it. What's the big deal? Now that's what's going to be when Mashiach comes. What would be the big deal? Everybody's pious. Therefore the Talmud says when Mashiach comes, no accepting any more Baalei Tshuva, not accepting converts anymore. Well, what's going to be the big deal? Of course, when Mashiach is going to come, everybody will want to be observant. And everybody would want to be Jew. Let's see you now being observant. When there's a challenge. So the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, what would the actions of the righteous people would look like if everybody would be righteous? Then it would be a total natural thing. So the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, let me bring wicked people into the world, so they will do horrible acts, and then when a pious person does a good act, ooh, this is good, this is bad. She'im lo haya ba'olam ela ma'aseh tzadikim, if there wouldn't be in the world but righteous actions, lo haya nikar shvacham shel achad asar mima shekvar nikar ata. We wouldn't even notice how good is the actions of the pious people. Ki en ha'or nikar ela mitoch hachoshech. Because the light, the greatness, the value, the virtue of the light can only be cherished or valued when it comes out of darkness. If we would be born to a reality of light, we wouldn't value the light. But when it comes out of darkness, then you value how great the light is. ועל כן, therefore, במעשה הרשעים ניכר שבח ומעלה של מעשה הצדיקים. Therefore, with the actions of the wicked, you can see how great the actions of the pious is. Therefore, the Kadosh Baruch Hu did not get rid of the darkness. Technically, he could have taken the darkness, wrap it up, throw it in the Tehom HaRabba, in the abyss, get rid of it for good. And then we would only have light. But how we would notice how would we value the light? And this is a powerful lesson to everything in our life. How do you see the good in things when it's mixed with a little bit of bad? Because a lot of people ask, why did Hashem create bad things? Why did Hashem create wicked people? Why did Hashem create negative things? So you can distinguish between good and bad. If we wouldn't have that, how would you know that everything is good? Everything would be good. So what's the power of it? Why would you value it? Why did Hashem decide that when a husband and wife are married and the wife has a cycle, her monthly cycle, separate? This is the best thing for Shlom Bayit. 12 days, you can't touch your wife. Forget about that naturally, physically, the wife needs to heal. You know that they made a research and they found that observant women that observe family purity never, 100%, never get cancer of the ovaries. Not even one case. Because when the woman has her period, the time that she's away from her husband, the ovaries need to replenish themselves, to heal themselves. But look what a perfect system. You're away from your wife for 2 weeks. Now you miss her. Suddenly you come and give her a hug, give her a kiss. So when do you value something? When you don't have it. Somebody sent me a sticker like this the other day. Is that, I don't remember how it was said, but something along the line is that when do you value something? When, it was like a toilet paper. The picture was like an empty toilet paper. The brown roll. And it says, you only value things in life when you run out of it. Something like that. So, not to chas v'shalom compare anything to toilet paper, but the message behind here, that the Kadosh Baruch Hu decided to leave darkness in the world, that you can distinguish, this is good, this is bad. This is righteous, this is evil. This is the right way, this is the wrong way. Therefore, the Kadosh Baruch Hu decided not to get rid of the darkness, rather to leave it equal in time to the light, that you by yourself can make the distinguish what is good, what is bad, And needless to say, that this is a concept which is explained in depth in Hasidic philosophy, Yitron ha'or min ha'choshech. When does the light have a greater power? When it comes out of darkness. Take now a candle and go out to the street in daylight. Would you see the flame? You don't see the flame even. It doesn't even affect anything because it's light in a greater light. So you don't see the advantage of the light. Take that same candle into a dark room. Suddenly the light dominates. The light won the darkness. A little bit of light diminishes a lot of darkness. Suddenly that little light, because it came into darkness, suddenly you see the virtue, the advantage of the light. This is Yitron ha'or min ha'choshech. The light becomes greater when it comes out of darkness. Now what is left for us to do is that we are in darkness. We sin, we have bad thoughts, we speak Lashon Hara, we are stuck in darkness. When you go out of the darkness, then you see the yitaron, the advantage of the light that you produce coming out from a dark place. So we are in exile, in case you haven't noticed, and we are stuck in darkness. This is our job to light up the world with mitzvot, with positivity, with the right approach, with Torah, with prayer, and then we empower the light over the darkness. This is Yitron ha'or min ha'choshech, that we see the value of the good. There's so much bad in the world. 99% is bad in the world. All we only need is 1% of good. That's it. The light diminishes all the darkness.